Okay, you're ready to go.
Let me bring the meeting to order. You want that?
Angela's has to unmute her.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just mute the desktop.
Yeah, I'm trying. Yep. It's muted.
All right. Let me bring the Inland and Wetlands Commission meeting of Monday, May 20th to order. Will the secretary take the roll, please?
Absolutely. Mr. Stepanek,
Here.
Ms. Jameson, here. Ms. Sanford,
Here?
Ms. Brinali,
Present.
Mr. Reddin,
Here.
Mr. Sillo,
Absent.
Ms. Woike,
Absent.
Mr. Ramirez,
Here.
Ms. Owsley. Here.
All right. For your information, if you don't already know this, Anthony Zillo has resigned from the commission. All right. So Katie, will you take his slot, yeah, sub for him, even though he's not here, just take that vacancy. And Adam, would you take Priscilla Wolke's slot as a regular member today? Yeah, thank you. Approval of the agenda, you all have a copy of that. Any comments?
I move approval. I move approval. Angela Jameson, for the record.
Do I have a second? Beth?
I second it, Beth Sanford.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the special meeting of April 3rd. Again, I'm assuming you'll have a copy of that. Any comments, deletions, suggestions? If not, can I have a motion? I'll make a motion to approve it. Second, Adam?
I second the motion.
Okay, good.
Everyone in favor?
What?
Is everyone in favor?
Oh, yes, everyone's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yep. Approval of the regular meeting of April 8th. You'll have a copy of that. If I don't hear anything, can I hear a motion?
I'll move approval. Angela Jameson.
Who seconds it?
I'll second it, Beth Sanford.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good, it's approved. Finally, the site visit minutes of May 1st. You all have a copy of that. Any comments, deletions? If not, can I hear a motion? I'll make a motion to approve.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion's approved. All right, thank you.
Commissioner Stepanek, I approve those minutes to the extent that I was present. So I was not present for the site visit to 677. So
Okay.
my approval is conditioned on the portion of the site visit I was present.
All right. So now we open the regular meeting. Number 5, applications to be received and if complete will be scheduled for the June 17, 2024 regular meeting. And we have no new applications to be heard on the 17th of June. And number 6, schedule a site visit to visit these sites, any new applications, and since there are none, there are no site visit will be scheduled. All right, number 7, application number IW 24-950, Willowbrook Lane, dredge existing pond to restore health of pond. Agent Alexandra Mock, soil scientist.
Alexander, you can start sharing your screen if you'd like.
Okay. I'm not able to. It says host disable participant screen sharing.
Hold on, let me recheck it. I had set it for sharing. Can you try now?
Yes, it works.
Okay,
Thank
very
you.
good.
All right, Alexander Mark, so I'm a wetland scientist, landscape designer, and I am here today to walk you through the project, which is at 50 Willowbrook Lane, and it is for the maintenance dredging of a pond. Here's the view of the property. It is a 1 acre property in one AC zone and within 5 Mile River watershed. As you can see, the backyard is mostly wooded with large old trees. We have 5 Mile River, which is kind of following the property line. And then we have another river, which is the Willowbrook, which goes kind of in the center of the yard. Wetland watercourses at the site, we have 5 Mile River mentioned before, and we have a man-made pond, and this is the Willowbrook, which comes through the pond and exits the property. In green, the associated wetland around the watercourses delineated by Alexandra Mock, myself, and the soil pond at the site is Ripawam fine sandy loam. Here's the view of the pond, and some of you had the benefit to go to the site and see it. And this is the view of the from the driveway, the end of the driveway. You can see that only this portion, it's deep enough to be covered with water. And you can see a lot of exposed sediment. As you can notice, we have some snow on the ground. So the picture was taken in the winter time last year. And obviously there's no foliage, there is no evaporation because the temperatures are low and we still don't have a full pond. Here's the maintenance dredging, which we are proposing. So we are going to be entering from the Willowbrook Lane. We're going to bring the equipment. This is our access here to the back of the residence and then to the pond. And we'll start dredging from the edges. To go across the Willowbrook without any disturbance, we are going to be using a metal plate, which is going to be sufficient enough to go over the brook and then gain the access to the other side of the pond. We have two dewatering basins scheduled, and one of them is a little bit smaller, one of them is larger. So basically this section of the pond is going to be dewatered here, and the other section of the pond is going to be dewatered here. In orange are double silt fence with hay bales, so we're going to have very good filtration. There's not going to be any siltation coming back to the pond. Also here we have more silt fence protecting the river on this site. If needed, also I would like to mention that we are going to be building a forebay, and this is also within the old area of the pond. What happened during the heavy storm events, the Willowbrook is very flashy and brought a lot of sediment, so the river started building a delta here. So we're going to be excavating this delta, and we're going to creating a plunge pool, which will allow the water to flow with suspended sediment, slow down in the pool, drop off the sediment, and then the clean water is going to be entering the pond. This way we're going to prolong the longevity and good health of the pond. In the front here, we're going to be using a snow orange fence because this is our septic area and we don't want any heavy equipment to enter or park in this site. Also, the dredging is going to be done in the end of the summer, so August, September, when the water level is going to be very low. Last time I've seen the pond during the summertime, it was almost dry, so we may not need to use the water diversion, But if there's going to be a lot of water flowing from the Willowbrook, then we will have a pump set up here and we'll divert the water to the other side of the pond and let it go. Willowbrook actually joins 5 Mile River of the site. Here's more details. So as you can see, this is the existing condition. The pond is very shallow. It's a little bit more than 2 feet in the deepest portion. We are going to give a more of a depth. We're going to go more than 4 feet, budget dependent. And as you can see, we are going to also try to be conscious about the cost of the dredging, but also about the health of the pond and how the pond is going to recover. So those areas are very shallow, and these are going to be shelves where the vegetation is going to be growing. And also here's another shelf, which is going to be nice filter for the flowing water. We have another shallow shelf here, and also on this side. And then the inner portion or the middle portion is going to be the deepest. So approximate amount of dredge spile, which we're most likely going to have, is 1,730 cubic yards. And the pond excavation will be done by Yuri Strauss, Turf Pro LLC. He has the experience. He's done several ponds when working for the golf courses. So I'm confident that he will be a good fit for the project. The methods of dredging, first of all, this is a maintenance dredge, so we are going to be staying within the perimeter of the pond. We're not going to be enlarging the pond. We're not going to changing the shape. We are just going to be focusing on the depth. The mechanical dredging is by excavation. You can see on the picture above that there's going to be an excavator, which is going to be removing the mostly organic action material from the bottom of the pond, and then we're going to be dewatering the material, and we will take the material out. If we go back to the survey, we don't have actually any place to store the material, so we have to take it out. This area is within the flood zone. This area is the only level area and the only actually recreational yard for the property. And this is all septic, so we can use this area. So the sediment is going to be taken out. The benefits of dredging removes nutrients and heavy sediment, increase stormwater capacity, improves aesthetics, and restore aquatic habitat, and reset the lifespan of the pond. So the pond is usually starts young and then starts aging. So when you excavate or you dredge the pond, you have no vegetation around. The water is not full of nutrients. They're actually not nutrients at all. And then gradually the vegetation starts populating the edges. And that's how the process starts of debris, organic debris being settling at the bottom of the pond, and pond starts shallow, and also there is excess nutrients, and then pond goes eutrophic, and then at one point it needs to be dredged again to maintain the habitat. And this is my presentation. I'm here to answer any questions.
Anyone with any questions? Angela?
Angela Jameson for the record. Thank you for that presentation. So how long do you think the project will take? And what is the biggest challenge with a project like this?
Well, dewatering is going to be the biggest challenge. How long it's going to take? It's going to probably take a little bit longer, because it's not just excavation, dewatering, and then spreading the sediment somewhere on the property. We'll have to excavate, dewater, and then actually we will excavate and dewater as we go. And then as soon as the sediment is dry, it all depends how much rain we're going to have, we will be able to take it out. And it is quite a lot of sediment. So there will be probably a week maybe to truck this out of the site. I'm not sure how long the dredging will take, but I think it will probably be less than a month.
Thank you. And where exactly will you put the sediment to dry before you remove it from the property?
So we have two areas. Here's one, which is going to be surrounded by double silt fence and hay bales, and here's the basin number 2. I'm not sure, and again, you know, it's summertime. Hopefully we're not going to be getting a lot of rain. We're going to have a lot of evaporation because it's going to be hot temperature. So hopefully the sediment is going to be drying out very quickly. But, you know, you never know. So we may actually use only one of the dewatering basins, or maybe we will use them both. It all depends upon the weather condition.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Kathleen?
Alexandra Kathleen Holland for the record. I may have missed this. Does your contractor have a location for the disposal of the material?
Yes, we do, and he's going to be at that time. He has scheduled to work in Reading, and he's going to be taking the spoils to Reading. Do you need to know the address? So the
No.
address is
No, no,
20
that's okay. We don't need to know the address. The reason I ask is, you know, we want to make sure that wherever the material is going to be disposed of, that it's in an area that's not creating an issue for either the town of New Canaan in a wetlands point of view or another municipality. So I'm sure you have cautioned him on that, and it's going to Reading. So hopefully it's an appropriate disposal site in Reading.
Yes, I did check the site, and there are no wetlands.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, this is Dan Stepanek. I'm looking at your map here. I see the pond, and then I see the brook that apparently leads, going south, it leads from there. Are you going to clean the brook at all? We didn't look at that, and I'm just wondering how clogged is that brook? The brook there.
So the brook actually is has a pretty deep channel, and especially recent storm events made this channel very deep and very efficient. So there's no need to make this channel deeper. We're not going to be doing anything within the brook area. That's not the part
Okay.
of the project. The brook functions well. The only thing we would like to do is just eliminate the delta, which has been built over the last few severe storms.
So most of the leaves that are going in there are from the trees surrounding the pond. They're not coming from the northern part of the northern brook, the northern inlet from up, from a neighbor up, next door or neighborhood up above there.
So when I walk the brook, because you have an error that the brook flows this way. Sorry, I don't know why the survey shows this way, but actually the brook is coming in. That's why the plunge pool is going to be here, and then it's getting out. And this area is it's a very there are no organic matter here. There's mostly a mineral type of environment here. So the deposition here, like the delta, is built all from sand and gravel. So this is very sandy and gravelly soil which is being eroded. And the organic matter, I think the pond is very old, and over time, now we don't probably see the algae bloom and some other duckweed because it's too shallow, but probably a little bit earlier when the pond was a little bit deeper, probably has a lot of algae, a lot of duckweed growing in it, and probably some other plants which started accumulating at the bottom, and that's why we have so much organic material there. I don't think, well, the leaves obviously do contribute to it, but the trees are very important because in summertime when you have full sun and high temperatures, those leaves actually, the canopy of the trees provide shade and keep the water cold, and the colder the water is, the more oxygen content in it. So we don't want the water to heat up because this is not good for the aquatic species.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, hi, Beth Sanford for the record. Can you show on the map how the heavy equipment is going to access the pond for the dredging?
Yes, so here's the Willowbrook. So we're going to enter from the road, and this is our driveway. We're going to be drive over the driveway, and then here's the house. So behind the house, as the arrow shows, and then this way we will access the edge of the pond. We probably will start dredging from here, and then as we go, we're going to go around the pond and reach the other end.
Thank you.
Do you have any special recommendations or anything?
I
I'm looking
had
at-
contemplated, all of the applications for tonight, and honestly, I didn't, I couldn't think of any special conditions that would be adding any benefit to the actual application. I think Alexandra has covered the proposal very well in a lot of details. So I kind of just said, if you have any,
Yeah,
please
I
let me
see
know
that,
that
yeah.
you would like. I did want to introduce the property owner is here. Mr. Driscoll is in the front row, so he is in attendance this evening. So if you had any questions for Mr. Driscoll.
Do you have anything you'd like to say, Mr. Driscoll?
So I honestly couldn't think of any
No,
special conditions
I
that would.
can't think of anything. Anybody? All right, can I hear a motion without special conditions?
make-
Sandy Redden for the record. I'll make a motion to approve IW 24-9, 50 Willowbrook Lane, with no special conditions.
I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those deny or not approve? There aren't any, so motion's carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's have A dry summer so you can dredge away.
Keep our fingers
Thank you,
crossed.
Alexandra. Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 8, application number IW 2413-51. Remove invasive plants and install native plants. Activities proposed in wetlands and upland review area. Agent Michael Boyce, landscape architect.
Yep, he's just getting his
Hmm.
presentation. Oh, did it? Okay, voila. There you go. Turn your mic on just for your presentation so that you can hear the.
Everybody hear me? Okay, there we go. Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Boyce, and I prepared the wetland planting for 51 Harrison Avenue for Stephen Cox and Katie Cox. I'm going to try and run through this in a somewhat narrated fashion, since you've all had a chance to review the plans and the proposed activity. But before I go through this, I know there was some confusion about the wetland line. And if you were confused, I was confused at one point as well. The only thing that I can say is that the original planting was done before the wetland line was shortened, meaning closer to the brook. So the planting plan has not changed. At one point mistakenly, a soil scientist put the wetland line in a different place than it really was. So we hired somebody else. And the wetland line really runs along the back of the existing wall on the property, which is part of the previous project. So essentially, we treated the entire back as a wetland. And I hope that clears some of that up. Okay. Um, So one of the questions, about this project is what is the purpose of this planting, and I can read right from this, but basically, Stephen and Kathleen or Katie would like to beautify the backyard and actually turn it into a functioning wetland, but something that has some visual appeal to it, something that has some visual language. And the plants that were chosen are plants that I have a lot of experience with. Many, if you were to drive to my house tomorrow, you'll find growing on my own property. And it's important to say that because there might be 100 different plants that we could choose from to place on this property. But my experience has taught me that in a situation like this, it's probably better to choose plants that I know that are durable, that are going to survive a long time, and the plants that are being proposed will actually live long. And the idea behind that is once we plant these plants, we want them to colonize. We want them to move around a little bit. We want the wetland to function. We want the plantings to act as a filtering barrier into the brook. And we really don't want the plants to fail because we don't want somebody else to go back in there and have to start repairing or maintain the wetland at any point in the future. So the idea is to really focus on plants that perform really well. And so let's go to, I wish I could enlarge that. In any event, I wish I could enlarge it so I can actually see it. Sorry. Oh, yeah. There we go. Okay. Perfect. Oh, perfect. Okay. Also, the purpose of color coding the plan was to give you a feel for what some of the plants are, where they are, and how they move in the landscape. There's a mix of two different types of panicum, which, I know to do very well in water quality or retention ponds. They can deal with standing water for quite a few days, and they can deal, once they're mature, they can actually deal with a lot of drought should that happen. Towards the middle of the property, we're proposing no-mow lawn, which is a combination of 3 or 4 different types of fescue and partridge pea. If you know partridge pea, it's a beautiful legume. It has a beautiful yellow flower on it, and it's important for attracting 3 different types of butterflies. And it's a plant that will reseed. And the reason why it's mixed in with some of the fescue is the reseeding will be kept in check a little bit by the fescue. And the sort of light lime green, a variety of carex, 2 different varieties of carex. Then we have a different variety of panicum in this area. We have Joe Pieweed. We have a large Viburnum americana here. We are proposing to add 6 trees. 2 of the trees were recently added. The neighbor at 61 Harrison requested 2 trees, so we added 2 more of the Acer rubrum, the rocket. And we chose the rocket in particular because it's a fairly narrow tree as far as maples go. It'll probably grow about 15 to 18 feet tall, or wide, and probably about 35 feet tall at maturity. So it'll allow a fair amount of sunlight through to the plants that are underneath these. And there are 3 Nisa sylvatica, one here, and one in this area. And then the pond is literally edged by, 223 carex, Cornisomomium and Clethra alnifolia, and mixed in among these is cinnamon fern. So the idea here is that, you know, if you think about partridge pea, cinnamon fern, those plants, even Joe pieweed, they're pretty good at self-selling, reseeding, and colonizing. So that's something we want to see happen. You know, and then we also have a backdrop of green giant arborvitae, and that's to present some sort of backdrop for the client, some screening between the client and the house behind them. It's a single stem arborvitae that will not suffer under snow load, and I've never seen deer eat them through my career. And that's kind of it on the planting. I think the we're also proposing to remove, as part of the process of preparing the site, we're proposing to remove 7 small hornbeam, a leaning twin maple. And as I said, we're adding 6 major trees in place of those. And this project will be produced with hand labor only. There may be machinery that brings plants down through the side of the property, as was done when the pool was built. Probably stop in this area since the pool is already finished. The guys may end up accessing the stairs, the small plants in hand, but anything that is done in here will be done by hand. The trees will be removed, the stumps will remain, there will be no stumps removed. Any of the leaves that have fallen into this space will remain. We're not proposing to till anything. I think it's a good idea to let those layers of soil and leaves stay so that they help build a good soil profile. We may move them and put them back as part of the mulch in this project, but the idea is that whatever is done here is done with all hand tools. And we are proposing to basically remove all the vegetation within this area, which includes, you know, several invasive species, and so it'll be done by hand. And again, the plant group, for the most part, is aggressive enough, based on my experience, to really keep invasives at bay. I have a whole area behind my house, and it's an ongoing experiment. But that's part of the goal here, is to pick plants that are pretty good at fighting with, you know, some of the invasives that we're constantly battling. And I think that's it. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, Mr. Boyce, we've been on Harrison, I mean, the commission, a few times. And tell me about the water that comes down between that, your house, and the house on the other street. Is there a lot of water that still flows down there when it rains?
So I have not witnessed that personally.
Yeah.
It's a good question. I almost feel embarrassed not to be able to answer it. You know, I might say that water from the street behind the Coxes does flow into the creek. And it flows, I'm going to say, almost tangentially to the creek and into 61 Harrison Avenue. As we go a little farther up, the topo is a little bit higher, so it's almost forced that way. So I think I would guess if I were going to analyze that sort of in my brain, I would say, yeah, the water does from the street flow into this area. And that can be a concern because there's salt in the winter and there's sand in the winter. And those are, you know, it's known that salt is bad for wetlands, and sand can definitely over time choke a wetland. So there's, you know, the idea that some of these plants are acting as good filters. I mean, the Cornisomomium is an insanely stoloniferous plant. And once it's mature, the thicket is, and especially if the leaves are allowed to fall, that should help filter salt and sand. And I imagine that a lot of it, unless the ground is frozen, is also, you know, perking into the property before it gets to the creek. But honestly, it's a guess. I probably should have looked at that a little bit more.
Yeah, so the water.
Could you actually just come to the mic, because we won't be able to hear you? If you could just speak in the mic. This is actually Mr. Cox, the homeowner of 51 Harris.
So I did a lot of research here, just not as much as him, but so it comes down from, what's the street behind me? I forgot
Kelly Green.
Kelly Green. So there's wetlands behind me that's unoccupied land. It's just land. There's no house there. So the house to the left of me, if you're facing my house to the left, they've, I guess, through the years have contained their flow of water. So the water comes down from my neighbor at 61 and it's not as contained as the other house, but it flows down into mine. And I think through the years, and not through my construction, but others, there was a tree that fell and they did damage to the bay, and a lot of the rocks have been separated. So it's a little bit more of a vast stream. So if you follow the water, I mean, we just had a lot of rain this year, right? So last year, there was when I bought the house, I was looking at it early into March, there was no water there ever.
Right.
And it was very dry. So when I bought it, I was like, oh, this is great.
Mhm.
But then, we had a lot of water, a lot of snow, but it does move. And then it goes, I mean, when I followed all the way to Kelly Green through those, I think it goes underground and Kelly Green in the wetland behind me, but then all the way down, even down to Selleck, it's all contained in like I don't want to say a river, but it's a channel. Yeah. I mean, it's contained. I think which is why I want to I just want to put it back to how it was. I'm not interested in, making Venice, but the water just goes everywhere.
So the water doesn't go over the banks into the wetlands very much in your backyard, is that correct?
Now it has because it's been so much rain, but last year it was
Yeah,
totally dry.
yeah.
But I think there's one area where you could see where the tree fell, especially in the winter. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just destroyed, or whatever the people that developed the property did to it back there. I don't know. It looks like doesn't look natural. But right now, I don't think there's no water back there.
Yeah, I would just think that you don't want a tree to fall in there and then dam it up, and then then you got plenty of water back there that you don't really want,
Well, that's why we're doing this.
Yeah.
You guys were back there, and it looks even worse now because it's all grown in. It's a complete eyesore. And there's no rhyme or reason in my backyard to anything. It just looks like a mess, just a mess.
I can add a little bit more to the wetland story. So this is sort of this area was developed before wetland regulations were in place by probably, oh gosh, I'm gonna say 40 years. So there's remnant wetlands coming down through this whole neighborhood. Eventually, this water course does feed, as you said, down through the end of Kelly Green and ultimately under Main Street and discharges into the 5 Mile River. So that is where the water source is heading towards. And it's an intermittent water course, so sometimes it will be running and sometimes it won't be running. There probably are drainage aspects contributing to this water course as well. Yeah, so that is the sort of the history of it. This is what's left as far as the functioning wetlands on this particular area. And it's probably acting a little bit as a flooding, pre-flooding, kind of storing some of those floods that you might see in the area. Michael, one of your slides, I think, has, do you have the one with the plants? Just like, usually you have like a picture of what the plants look like. I thought you had,
Yes.
yeah, that one. So those are the species, what he's talking about as far as the landscape to be implemented into the rear yard. I think the really important thing that Michael and Mr. Cox are trying to accomplish is out-competing invasives, and that is the challenge for this location, because it's been not maintained. It's sort of just been ignored for whatever number of years, and now we actually have really a mitigation plan that he's undertaking that all native plants and seems to be appropriate for the site.
Removing invasives beforehand, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to ask a similar question.
Go ahead, go for it.
Just in terms of what technique you can do and use for removing the invasives, are we safe in assuming you're not going to use any herbicides?
No herbicides. So the challenge with, I didn't see any stilt grass. I haven't been there in a little while, so there might be some of that there. There might be Japanese mugwort. So those are pretty easy to pull by hand. And if you have some time in your hands, you can actually pull Japanese mugwort out and it'll come out pretty easily. Stilt grasses, just trying to get that pulled out before it reseeds, because every plant produces, I don't know, making it up about 1,000 seeds. It's just crazy. I did not see any Japanese knotweed, which is a good thing, because that's almost the only way you can get rid of that is by using a herbicide, and it takes a long time. You know, usually in fall you cut it down, you pour, I don't want to say the word Roundup, which you can buy without glyphosate now, if you're interested, and you pour it down on that, and then you have to follow up again the following year, and you have to keep hitting it, and it has such a network of roots that, you know, it just dissipates any of those herbicides, and eventually it'll come back. So I didn't see any, and I'm happy about that. The other ones are, you know, somewhat more manageable, I think. And I think when we think about some of the plants that are put in here, we're proposing, by the way, you know, pycnanthemum. There's a few small areas of that, mountain mint. It's an insane pollinator. It's beautiful mint flavor, smell. You use it in teas. And it's not invasive like garden mint, but like Joe Pyeweed, if you've ever had a stand of Joe Pyeweed that's mature and had to move it, the density of the root system is almost unimaginable. So it's plants like that develop a good root system that make it harder for other plants to invasive to take over. So that's kind of the challenge. And you know, and it's you know, on a project like this, I'll be back there in a year just taking a look at it, you know, to see what it does. You know, that's why I experiment at my own house. It's call me crazy, or I have too much time on my hands. I don't know, but it's, but the idea is to create thickets, you know, at the Grand Plain, so that we don't allow invasives to take over.
And I see you have a special condition.
I actually had a
Oh, I'm
couple
sorry,
of
I'm sorry,
questions.
sorry.
Angela Jameson for the record. So Mr. Cox, thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's always great when the homeowner also comes along to the meeting as well as the agent. So Mr. Boyce, with the change in the wetlands line, can you reconfirm that you are satisfied that the plantings in the entire wetlands area are going to be appropriate?
Yeah, and I and just to sort of reiterate, you know, before that even changed, you know, the planting from the stone wall out has remained. So it's, you know, I you know, even though a tiny portion of it is still upland wetlands, it was all treated as wetlands, you know, and so the panicum, the carex and all that start at the base of the wall, I think are a great beginning because it slopes downhill to filtering. And then the no-mow lawn. And the no-mow lawn is there to allow a little bit of access for, you know, Stephen and his wife and his family, just to be able to go down and walk through some of the plants. But it will not stand out as lawn. It'll look like, if you've ever seen fescues that have been not mowed, they grow tall and they flop over. It's very pretty. Then you get partridge pea poking up through that. So I think it's a really beautiful palette. So I am satisfied with it, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then my next question, you are obviously removing some trees and we understand why, but are you replacing the same number of trees as you are removing?
No.
Okay.
So we're removing 7 small hornbeams. I would call them almost clump hornbeams, and 1 twin oak that I'm fearful that if it's not removed may not make it long. And the other hornbeams are being removed so that we can make light for the plants that are being proposed. And that's the only reason. We just want this thicket to have a really good chance, and sunlight happens to, you know, be their best friend. I mean, some of the plants like clethra, you know, the calycanthus is, they're really good in shade, but they'll thrive in full sun.
So tell us about the trees that you will be planting.
So we have Nyssa sylvatica, which is a plant that is pretty well known for a wetland, and it's I think it's a striking tree. It has a beautiful deep green foliage to it. The bark is almost jet black, and if you've ever witnessed one of those in fall, when it's in full fall color, after a fall rain and the sun comes out and the bark is black and the sky is blue, and one of the reasons for planting, it's a great tree. And Acer rubrum, swamp maple is, a great tree for those kinds of conditions. And that, as I said, the rocket is a very columnar variety of that maple. And that was specific just to allow more light to filter through to the ground plane and let some of the
So how
plants.
many trees are you going to be planting?
6 total.
Okay,
Six total, removing 7 small hornbeams and I'm not trying to play down when I say small, they're just 7 hornbeams and the twin maple.
Yeah.
I don't think they're
Because-
flowering, right? There's no leaves on some of the trees.
When you say
The
flower,
one on the left, I mean, there's no leaves. It looks.
oh, it's dead. It's probably
dead.
dead. I imagined it would
Yeah.
be, the twin maple.
Because there are a lot of
That-
trees get just cut down in this town and they don't get replaced and our
Yeah.
canopy gets smaller. And as we all know, trees help in so many ways as we try and hold back climate change.
We're tree people.
You're
Yeah.
tree people.
My
that's
wife's a
right.
tree person. I'm from Queens. I just want everything clean.
Yeah, trees are responsible for more pollinating than all the plants that we're putting here. It's, if we could get little leaf linden to grow here, I think it's too wet. You want to pick a great tree in the middle of June when it's in full bloom. If it's quiet, you can literally hear the bees just buzzing all throughout the entire tree. It's an insane
Bees.
pollinator.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Steve's gonna
Anything
make
else?
honey next year.
Have you talked to the neighbor in back of you about what you're doing and are you working in any way with him on his side at all?
I have my wife spoken to him. He seemed amiable to everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually have made progress with my neighbor to the right. And then, Dave, he was just worried about his land and it's being soaked, so replacing the trees. But I like what's going on back there. Like I haven't heard much from him or any complaints from him. And we're gonna put a screen up because there's nothing there.
Yeah.
To be honest, like I don't like going back there because it looks like terrible. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, his.
Well, in
yard?
between, no, not his, like where my
Oh,
landline is.
okay.
Like I can't get back there really because there's
I
no,
I see.
it's just overgrown. It might be a fox or something back there. There is a fox. I mean, I think
You're
it's
absolutely right. Yeah,
killing
there are
birds everywhere,
foxes.
but-
Oh, there's
Well, I think he's scared
a
of a
neighborhood
beagle.
fox, yes.
But yeah, I think, I mean, I just can't wait for that area to be back there, but my wife's spoken to him a few times. I haven't, he hasn't, and I've texted with him a few times. I just haven't had a
Yeah,
chance. I have 4 kids.
I've
and
also
5
heard from
sports.
neighbors as well, and the gentleman, is it Mr. Gray? Is his
I
last name
believe so.
Gray? He's reviewed the plans and he didn't really have any follow-up comments. And so I don't think there was anything. And the neighbor to the left and the right have followed along the process and Michael responded to one of the requests from the neighbor to the left,
Hmm.
if you're on the street, and added, I think, the 2 trees. So,
more.
I think,
Well, he thinks that the trees are gonna, because he has that one really soggy area. But I think if we clean up how the water flows, like I'm not, like I said, I just want to quasi control because there's no control now. And then like when I follow, it seems like everyone has some control over their water flow.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I mean, like he was just, I would love to plant that tree and sit back there with some running water and bees. I mean, that sounds really relaxing, actually.
it's the guy from Queens.
Yeah, I mean, we're used to summer.
Converted him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some of
but-
us think it's really exciting that you have a fox. Some of us do.
I don't know. My wife's worried about my beagle, but I don't know. He's a pretty tough dog. I'd be curious what happens in that fight.
Just wait till they have, pups or something like that, and then.
Who, the fox?
Yeah.
Well, someone said there's 2 of them now
Oh,
and a
really?
rabid raccoon. I'm like, I can't. do this stuff. Just clean up my backyard.
Please
we'll
don't
figure
shoot
it out.
them, no.
But they might be in that wetlands behind me, right? That's a whole habitat back there.
Actually, I believe there's a den at the cemetery, and their radius is Oak Street, Harrison, Woodland Road. Yeah, they come through that entire area. So we get routine reports. They're
They're
not
nicer
bothering
looking than
anyone.
coyotes.
What?
Yeah,
They're nicer looking than coyotes.
Yeah, it's
Lot
it's
less
a very
meat.
healthy fox
Yeah,
patrolling the
yeah.
Yeah,
neighborhood.
very healthy, yeah. Anything else from anybody? No? Yeah,
consideration.
do you want to?
And in the staff report, I had just, it's a pretty standard condition, and I heard Michael say he's going to come back a year after the planting is done anyway, so, but usually upon completion of plantings, the landscape architect shall inspect and provide a report to the staff indicating compliance with the permit. Sometimes plants need to be switched out for different reasons. You should communicate that with me.
Sure.
If there's a substitute that needs to be done. But that's the only special condition that I had come up with, and I don't know if the commission members had anything else they wanted to add.
No? Can we hear a motion? What's the special condition?
So I move approval of the application with the special condition as outlined by Kathleen Holland.
Can I hear a second?
Beth Sanford, I will second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion's carried.
Thank
you.
you.
very much.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much.
We'll be in touch.
It's work.
Can't wait to see this.
Yeah, me neither.
Thank you very much.
Can you unshare your screen and then turn that mic off again? Because we're going to continue with our meeting. And you could just leave the meeting actually, and there you go. You're good. Okay, you did it.
The next item, application number 2414, 677 South Avenue. Agent Tiger Man. Before we get started, I'd like to discuss the possibility, and what do you think, the commission of a public hearing? I'm sorry.
Sorry, I don't mean to
Okay.
interrupt. But I will be, this is Commissioner Brunelli for the record. I will be recusing myself from application number IW 24-14 as I am an adjacent property owner and have a conflict of interest.
All right, thank you. I'd like to discuss the possibility of having a public hearing instead of just kind of a one-on-one here. And the reason that and I'll go through the guidelines here. There's 3 guidelines, but the reason I'm suggesting it is because normally major establishments here in New Canaan, we do a public hearing for, okay? Especially Waveney Park. Good reason to, but, you know, I'd like to decide today if that's what we're gonna do, and if we do it, then we'll plan it for the next meeting. We can. And let me just throw out there are 3 issues when it comes to holding a public hearing. One is the proposed activity may have a significant impact on wetlands or watercourses. That's number 1. B, receives within 14 days of the commission's receipt of an application, a petition signed by at least 25 persons who reside in the town of New Canaan, each of whom are 18 years of age or older. And the third one is the commission finds that a public hearing regarding the application would be in the public interest, okay? Number B, we don't have 25, at least 25 people who reside in the town of New Canaan that has signed a petition. So that one we need to rule out. The other 2, the proposed activity may have a significant impact on wetlands or watercourses. I don't know, we can discuss that, but it's probably not the case. And the other one is the commission finds that a public hearing regarding the application would be in the public interest. And that's where I think that we should discuss. And if we do decide to have a public hearing, we would adjourn, we wouldn't have it today. We would have it a special meeting.
You could consider a special meeting. The reason being, if you do decide that this is a matter of public interest and vote to go to a public hearing, there'll be no presentation this evening. And the commission I checked the calendar, jumping ahead, just in case you needed to prepare for a special meeting, June 3rd. The room is available for a meeting. The reserving that area for us, and we could start at 6 PM. So if you had if you decided to go to a public hearing, then we would need to know whether or not the commission, a quorum of the commission members could make a June 3rd meeting for the public hearing just on this matter.
Are there other committees that this has to go through, or is this only inland wetlands?
It also needs to be, a special permit to planning and zoning will be applied for. So that is the
I
second.
would think that would be a committee and an application that would be more relevant to a public hearing, because I don't know that there's an impact from what on
So
the
that's-
site tour.
That's one of the three considerations.
Right.
So that's one of the.
So
Right, but I
this
just
is-
think this committee, having a public meeting, it might be more powerful for a committee that's more about general zoning.
This is Angela Jameson for the record, and there's nothing to stop both inland wetlands and P and Z having public hearings. And just as a matter of history, I think every time we've considered an application that involves Waveney Park, we have held a public hearing. And whether or not many people have turned up to comment, we've given town residents the opportunity to do so. And we have received, one letter commenting on the plans. I would favor, continuing the precedent that we've set in the past and having a public hearing.
Any other comments? Beth, anything?
Thinking,
Adam,
Beth?
Beth?
I'm thinking about
Oh,
it.
no, I think I knew that, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Adam, any comments?
I actually think there should be a public hearing on the topic. So I support the idea of
Public
a
hearing.
public hearing.
Katie?
Like Beth, I'm thinking about,
Turn your mic on.
Yeah. And identify yourself, so.
Katie Owsley for the record. I think when you're introducing new turf, that has sort of an implicit potential effect on the wetlands, and so I think would be in favor of a public hearing for that reason.
Sandy Redden, for the record, if I were not on the committee, I would want a public hearing. I would like to come and make a comment as a member of the public.
If you were not on the commission?
Correct,
You would like it?
absolutely.
Okay.
As a resident of town, I would absolutely like to be part of the decision.
Beth, any-
I mean, the question is, obviously, we're always thinking about what the impact is on the wetlands. And, there is some exposure, but not as much as many of the other cases that we've looked at.
Yeah.
But in terms of some of the other considerations, I think giving the town an opportunity to express their point of view is always a good thing in our town. So I would be in favor of it,
I don't know.
or at least I'm leaning that way.
Yeah, just to reiterate, yes, I am in favor of holding a public hearing because I think it's in the public interest to do so.
Yeah, this is Dan. I feel strongly it's in the interest of the public. And, let's give them a chance and come in here and tell us. We may learn something else that's on their minds, that type of thing regarding, I hate to say this, the ball field or something like that. So I too vote for a public hearing, okay?
So if, on the call this evening, Tiger is present. And on the call this evening, we do have Harry, the town engineer, and the consultants from Richter and Segan. If we could just check schedules and whether or not, does June 3rd work for a quorum of the commission? And obviously,
It's my birthday, I'll be here.
Oh.
Oh,
I'll bake a cake.
Excellent.
21. Thank
So
you, Sam.
June 3rd, first for the
Let me
commission.
just ask you before you do that, why can't we do it on June 17th at our next meeting?
Uh,
Is there a timeline?
well, I,
a
I mean,
deadline?
oftentimes we sometimes, no, well, so we are under a little bit of a time crunch. Yes, that is true. Thank you for reminding me. There was a lot to think about with this one. Because the application was received April 8th, the commission has 65 days in which to schedule a public hearing. So June 17th is beyond the 65 days. So I had looked at June 3rd or 4th with the first selectman's office to see if there was a room available where we could take up this matter and have a special meeting, which we can do. Short of that, if you would prefer not to have a special meeting on June 3rd or 4th, you could go to this June 17th, and then the applicant would have to grant an extension of time in which to get to the 17th. I don't know, just seemed to work to do a special meeting and then potentially if we cannot conclude, you may be able to conclude everything at your special meeting. It's possible, to have the presentation, have the members of the public make their comments, applicant apply to it, apply to it. If you're not able to conclude, then that gives you the 17th to continue the public hearing, should you
Yeah,
need to continue
yeah,
the public
yeah.
hearing. So that's sort of the schedule I was looking at. I guess the first question is, do we have a quorum of the commission on June 3rd?
Yeah.
So,
I have a question though. So putting in this field should be open to the public making a decision and hearing about it. But us having the public hearing, are we having the public hearing related to impacts on the wetlands?
correct. So it's wetlands only, everything related
Right.
to wetlands, public hearing, that's your rules. Yeah.
Okay, then I'm gonna go back to my original. I think there should be a public hearing. I don't think it should be from this committee. I don't think we have enough
Okay, so
gravitas.
no public hearing.
No
So
problem.
he'd be no.
There should definitely be a public hearing. I just don't think that the Inland Wetlands Committee has, I've been on the site, I've read all the information. I have a hard time thinking that there's an impact on the wetlands. Impact on the town, yes, and whether I believe in these types of fields, that's a different.
No, it's in the public interest. It wouldn't be on the wetlands. It'd be
So
in the public interest. yeah.
in the staff report, I at least gave you a little bit in
Yeah.
talking with the town attorney. Unfortunately, gauging public interest, there's not a great guideline for it. The fact that it is Waveney Park, you could say that could be a matter of public interest. This was part of my discussion with the town attorney. How can
I absolutely think that this field should be in the public interest. But if this committee is one of the committees holding that, we can't make any decisions from the public because there's maybe no impact on the inland wetlands.
So I think you're getting some of the some things a little bit mixed.
Okay.
And it's just because you have a public hearing, all it does is like previous public hearings that you've had here, it would be the same protocol. The applicant would make their presentation, soup to nuts. Members of the public would be asked to speak and address the commission. And then you take into evidence their comments or not, depending on what those comments are. The applicant then would address those comments if there was anything that was relevant to the inland wetlands making a decision. So it's a public process based on public.
I understand that. Since I've been a member of this committee, we had a public hearing on something that I was personally very much against, and I couldn't find any evidence to vote against that project. And
This is Angela Jameson for the record. I don't think we can prejudge any decision that we may or may not take. We haven't had the benefit of the presentation
Mhm.
from the applicant. The point of the public hearing is to allow any resident who wants to express their view about what is being proposed as it pertains, in the case of the Inland Wetlands Commission, to the wetlands. We've already received one letter setting out concerns. I think we should allow others in town also to express any views that they might have. And you're absolutely right. We've got to focus on what what the impact on the wetlands may be, and then we make our decision. But I think to make a decision that we're not going to allow the public to express their views because we think at this stage, not having heard the presentation or what any member of the public might say, that we think it's very unlikely that we would be able to deny the permit. I think that's sort of jumping the gun and getting things a little bit, doing some things first that we should be doing later.
So if you still have enough members for public hearing, if you want Tiger to have a good birthday, we could go to June 4th. However,
June 3rd's fine. June 3rd's fine. I don't.
so June 4th was the other option. So, but I don't know if June 4th.
I can't make June 4th.
Okay, so
June
we're-
3rd is fine. Trust me. I didn't have to say it. It's fine. It's no problem.
Okay, so June 3rd, but
Let's
maybe-
vote.
Maybe you
Let's,
vote.
let's
Yeah.
vote. What about you on June 3rd? Adam,
I'm good.
you good?
Mhm.
I'm good.
I'm good.
I can make it.
I
Will
can
you
make it.
are you gonna make it?
I'm not, but I can make it.
Okay. You're not good?
No, I can make
You're,
it.
mentally you're not good, yeah.
Oh, no, I know how I'm going to vote. Go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, for the public hearing.
Yes.
Okay, for the public hearing. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
So it's been decided, I guess,
We should have a
we do
vote.
have to vote on
To
it.
take
then.
a vote.
You have to
Yeah,
vote.
take a
Yep.
vote.
Take a vote. Make
Can
a
I,
motion.
can I hear a motion that we have a public hearing on June 3rd? For application number 2414, IW 2414, 677 South Avenue. And Tiger, you can make it,
I
right?
can make it.
Okay.
Is there anything we need to do for that, Kath, or? is it-
Can I hear the motion?
Oh, sorry.
Angela Jameson, I move that we have a public hearing on this application on June 3rd.
I second the motion.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And anyone
Anyone,
not in favor?
not in favor?
Sandy Redden for the record.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 1. Okay, it passes. So
anything
the
we
only
need to
thing I
do?
would see is to check with your consultant schedules for June
Mhm.
3rd. Some of them are on the call. If I could just get a quick attendance, June 3rd, the commission has scheduled we'll be scheduling a public hearing for this matter. So that would be the date of your presentation. I forgot to mention, would you like to start at 6 PM for this one?
Yeah, that's
No.
fine.
That would be lovely.
Like, okay,
Can you
lovely.
do
For
it?
me, it would be lovely.
And Mike and Josh and
Billy, Bill,
Bill and Harry,
Harry.
can you check your schedules? Or maybe tell me this evening if you're able to make the June 3rd public hearing?
I am.
Who are those people?
That was Bill Kenny.
Mike Segan, yeah, we're good on the 3rd.
Okay,
Harry?
thank you. Good.
What about Harry?
Harry Roachville. I'm actually on vacation, but Tom Nelson, president of McCord Engineering, is familiar with the project and can attend the meeting. So
Okay,
someone
great.
will be there.
We're gonna zoom it anyway, so. Can we zoom it?
Yeah, it would,
Yeah.
but he's on vacation.
I don't know how well the Zoom will work on JetBlue.
Okay, Harry, you're off the hook.
Thanks.
Okay.
Anything else we need to do, or we'll just be back?
We'll talk tomorrow.
Okay,
Talk later or tomorrow.
perfect.
Okay,
All right.
thank you, Tiger.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tiger.
Okay.
All right. Agent report, administrative actions, permit number 2416. Any comments that you may want to make?
No, just 3 administrative permits were issued over the last month. And some small projects, mostly Yeah, nothing, pretty
That's
small, it's pretty
nothing,
small stuff,
yeah.
yeah. But if anyone has any questions, happy to answer.
All right, any other business that you guys want to talk about? Can I hear a motion to adjourn? Sandy?
Yes, Beth Sanford, I move that we adjourn the meeting today.
Second the motion?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.